Back again. Another installment of chapters. You know what I'm saying? This time we taking it to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. You know, we placing the spotlight on none other than Derrick Avery, aka Pimp Snooki. Let's get into it.
Who is Snooki?
Snooky's my pimp.
Snooki.
And you guys see, he is the best man.
Here he
I've
is,
ever
the
had.
best pimp, Snooki. What's your first number gonna be?
What's my first number, right?
Welcome to the show.
All right, Jerry.
And the three women you...
Pimping and prostitution, you know, that's a universal hustle right there. And it's been going on for centuries. And when you talk about pimping, man, the pimp culture, Milwaukee has been considered one of the places where people are really able to thrive. Some have even called Milwaukee the Harvard of pimp school. So in other words, it's a prestigious place that you can come to get your game right and, you know, make money off of pimping.
These prostitutes are working the streets of Milwaukee, a growing hub for sex trafficking. 2/3 of the pimps arrested in a nationwide FBI sting 2 years ago were from Wisconsin.
End up getting in. How did Milwaukee end up becoming kind of this hotbed for sex trafficking?
There is a lot of economic disparity in Milwaukee, and the unemployment rate is also very high. And some say that's the reason, because sex trafficking can provide a means of survival for pimps and for their victims. But law enforcement officials that I spoke to, they say that it is such a problem in Milwaukee because of the nature of pimp culture there. It is so embedded and sophisticated and organized. In fact,
and when you talk about Milwaukee and talk about Wisconsin and you talk about the pimp culture, Derrick Avery, aka Pimp Snooki, is somebody who stands out.
Chopping that shit up, man, at that first international players convention, man. You know what I'm saying? Doing that shit in a major motherfucking way, man. You know what I'm talking about? Charging this motherfucking shit to a hoe. You know what I'm talking about, man? You know, believe that shit. You know, you got Pimp Snooki, goddamn. Internationally known, locally accepted, and motherfucking respected. Mastering on hands, definitely motherfucking can. And guess what? I got a little secret to tell y'all. I ain't no motherfucking actor. It ain't no motherfucking entertainment around this motherfucker. Cost of living, price of motherfucking pussy, man. You know what I'm talking about, man? I'm Monty around this motherfucker. You understand what I'm talking about? I believe in cash and motherfucking carry. You understand what I'm talking about? Pimping around this bitch.
Just a little background on him. From what I understand, he actually jumped into the game officially around the late 80s, early 90s. He was dealing with, you know, strippers and just different women who would give him money and gravitate to him because he had a likable character, you know, and just a charisma and persona about him. And a stripper that he was dealing with ended up breaking him off like $1,500. And from there, he never looked back.
Nice to meet you. Welcome to the family. Welcome to the family. Okay, well, to start this out, you know what I'm saying? We have rules and regulations that we have to stand by to be with him. And the basic rules and regulations of his program is you say yes and no. You call him daddy at all times. You walk behind him and, you know, open doors and stuff for him. Wait for him to get out the car before you get out the car. And you don't look at no players, no niggas whatsoever. You have to respect him at all times because he puts his hoes on pedestals, you know what I'm saying? So he treats us like queens, so we gotta treat him like a king.
Never show no weakness to no hoe, never lie, you know, always keep it real. don't steal. You know, I'm telling you from my mistakes. You know? So, you know, always keep it real, you know.
Because he don't lie, he don't cheat, he give it to you in a raw.
Right.
With everything.
Right.
And if you have a problem or anything, you best believe he can solve it for you. Because every problem I had, family, health, whatever, it was solved. You know what I'm saying? So it ain't nothing. You know how people say shit's not, you know, it's impossible? It's no such thing with him. Isn't it, Kay? He solves every problem.
He actually had as many as 16 women, you know, in his quote-unquote stable at one time, you know, going out there and bringing them money. I'm talking about New Orleans making money, Chicago, Las Vegas, as well as, you know, Milwaukee, etc. So he was able to really establish a money-making prostitution ring, in so many words, that, you know, he thrived off of for years. And he didn't just focus solely on pimping. You know, he was a real entrepreneur. You know, he opened up a nightclub. He had a real estate investment company, a record label, and the list goes on and on. So, you know, at his core, he's a businessman. You know, he just chose pimping to be his main profession.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for every day, in hot pursuit for a new prostitute. Either she's gonna be a looker or a hooker, one or the other. You know, some of them give it away. You know, I like the ones that sell it. I like the ones that give it away too, because then you can always convince them to sell it. So it works both ways. But I'm trying to find me something now. I'm in the heat of the moment now.
You know, with that whole pimp lifestyle, it's glamorized a lot, especially in like the hip hop and just urban culture. But it's not always what it's cracked up to be, and it's a dark side associated with that. You know, if you just look at just the different cases of pimps around the nation being prosecuted, normally, you know, during those investigations, law enforcement is able to discover, you know, like the real deep inside of that, what's going on as far as like when it comes to, you know, disciplining your hoes.
Isn't. To put it in perspective, Milwaukee police have identified more than 200 pimps. Those are pimps who have had some kind of contact with law enforcement. And every girl can generate about $500,000 a year for any given pimp. And most pimps have 4 to 6 women or girls in their so-called stable. So pimps far outnumber police, and they have a lot more resources too.
Oh, absolutely.
Pimp Snooky. He was able to, you know, pimp successfully for approximately 2 decades, or a little under 2 decades, before he really got on the radar of law enforcement. He actually took his whole operation from Milwaukee to Las Vegas, and while he was out in Las Vegas, he actually tried to recruit this prostitute who was an undercover officer, you know, and that really kind of started his downfall. So when he initially got on the radar of law enforcement in Las Vegas, I think that was sometime around 2007. So if you fast forward a couple of years later, in 2009, he was indicted, you know, on 14 different charges, you know, by the feds. And the charges range from, you know, conspiracy to commit sex trafficking to multiple counts of trafficking a child, as well as multiple counts, you know, of transporting a child to engage in prostitution. You know, after the indictment, you know, he initially decided to fight it. But, you know, law enforcement really started revealing the dark part of his operation, as far as like him beating his women with, allegedly, with pans and brooms and, you know, different types of objects, putting telephone books on their backs and hitting them with baseball bats. And, you know, this quote unquote hot or cold treatment. I read that in one of the court documents on the case. If one of his ladies got out of line or they didn't meet a quota or whatever the case may be, he had either the hot or cold treatment for him, and they had to pick between the two. The hot treatment was him, you know, rubbing alcohol on their skin, taking a match and lighting the skin on fire. And the cold treatment was allegedly him filling a tub up with ice and making a prostitute sit while a cigarette burned, you know, and they had to sit in there until the cigarette burned all the way down. So, you know, it was serious, man. It was serious. So they highlighting all this different stuff in court. So he decided to take a plea deal. In November of 2011, Snooki reportedly pleaded guilty to 1 count of conspiracy to commit sex trafficking as well as 1 count of sex trafficking a child. And a few months later, in April of 2012, I believe it was actually on Friday the 13th, he was sentenced, to 20 years in federal prison.
The man known as Pimp Snooky is headed to federal prison for decades. Derrick Avery, seen in this 1999 movie, was sentenced to 20 years in prison Friday in federal court in Milwaukee. Avery prostituted scores of women and girls in cities all the way from Milwaukee to Vegas for at least 16 years, some of those girls as young as 14.
Something else, man, I want to point out, is that Snooki back in 1997, according to court documents, got picked up for this weapons charge. He was indicted on a weapons case, and to avoid punishment, he allegedly decided to become a confidential informant for the FBI. I've read in some documents that they actually tried to use that as some type of support during this case with the feds, on the sex trafficking crimes, etc. But that's interesting too, man. That's interesting. Unfortunate, if that's the case, because, that goes against the code that quote unquote street people live by. But something else interesting to point out is that Snooki, man, he had kids with a lot of his prostitutes, so they weren't just his workers, they was the mothers of his children. He revealed in a recent interview that he has as many as 24 biological kids and as many as 28 that he claims, But a case like Snooki's, man, it shows you that it's not always what it seems when it comes to something as intriguing as the pimp culture. It can cause a lot of hurt. It can cost you your freedom. But yeah, man, I just want to put some up on them. Hope y'all enjoyed the content, man. If you're messing with the video, make sure to hit the like button. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, make sure you do so ASAP. Cut the notifications on so you updated every time we drop new content. Check out the links in the description below the video, man, if you want to support. Until next time, I'm going to holler at y'all, man. It's your guy Lewis checking in. 100.
So, the question at hand, because I know I ran around it. Have I been in love? Yes. But I can't feel it. I can't feel the love that somebody else may feel. I love them for what I love them for, man. We have fun. It's no difference than
Everybody who's there to handle all of it, that's just not cute.
what you and your girl would do. We would do the same thing.